Good Thursday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Partly cloudy skies and 61 degrees on the barn thermometer this morning. It looks like it's going to be a dry day across most of the state, but could get wet going into the evening and tomorrow. It just seems kind of cliche with today being the start of the National Tractor Pulls going on in Bowling Green, Ohio. Pull Town, USA, as they call it. It'll be a big 3 days of pulling, and a little rain never seems to dampen their spirits. A couple quick calendar reminders. You're invited to visit the Darke County Fair August 16th through the 24th in Greenville, Ohio. Find the full schedule of events at darkecountyfair.com. And tune in tomorrow at midday as powered by soy biodiesel. Dale will be broadcasting from the Darke County Fair. Also, Ohio is a powerhouse of national leadership for commodity organizations. Listen to our midday programming coming up on Tuesday to find out why, thanks to Ohio Corn and Wheat. Taking a quick look at your agricultural headlines, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers has just released the July 2024 Ag Tractor and Combine Sales Report. Now, the report reflects that U.S. sales of four-wheel drive tractors grew 18.6% compared to July of 23, and they're up 5.2% year-to-date. Total U.S. sales of ag tractors dropped 14.1% in July and are down 11.9% year-to-date. Canadian sales, though, of four-wheel drive tractors jumped 88.7% compared to last year, and they're up 17% year-to-date. Total Canadian sales of ag tractors dropped 13% in July and 15.5% year-to-date. Let's check in now for our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council. Joining me today is Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora. He is our soybean pathologist and nematologist with OSU Extension. And Horacio, interesting as we look at beans around the state, some places look really good. Other places maybe struggled a little bit to get started, but they are starting to fill in. But now is the time to go out and do some scouting. And part of the things we can scout for includes soybean cyst nematode. Now, oftentimes we talk about collecting soil samples to try and figure out what the number is, but this is actually the time of year where folks can test themselves just with a simple spade and maybe a bucket of water.
Absolutely. This is a time when we want to be walking our fields.
You had a great article in the last week issue of the Corn Newsletter, and we've actually also got that posted up and the Ohio Field Leader website. So just go to ocj.com and click on the Field Leader link, and you can find access to that, or go to corn.osu.edu and you can find that article as well. But within that article, some great pictures, but also a nice instructional video that you put together.
We put together a nice video. I hope that it's helpful. And we did this in the Western Agricultural Research Station from Ohio State University. That's our research station in South Charleston, Ohio. That's a field that is infested with soybean cyst nematode. We know we have it. So, the video shows the way that I will normally go and scout and check the roots for soybean cyst nematode. Also provided a bunch of pictures showing in the same root system the presence of those nitrogen-fixing nodules that we want, and along those roots, the soybean cyst nematode. So a nice comparison there just to show how small the nematode is.
And again, you can visit that article by looking at the archives of the Corn Newsletter. That's corn.osu.edu, or go to the Ohio Field Leader website at ocj.com and click on the Field Leader link, and you can get all the details and a link for that video. I'm visiting again today with Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora, soybean pathologist and nematologist at The Ohio State University, and this weekly update has been brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your Soybean Checkoff. It's time now to take a look at our Thursday morning weather forecast, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com.
Sunshine through the day today, but moisture is headed towards us. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. No major changes right now. A big system brewing through our west, but the initial wave is starting to fall apart a little bit. I think we have to wait for the secondary wave to put some action down in Ohio today. So that means in west central and northwestern parts of the state, you might see a shower later this afternoon, but most of the rest of us will be seeing overnight tonight through tomorrow, and then seeing lingering showers into Saturday. Right now, I think we have to pencil in total for the event anywhere from 1/4 to 1.5 inches, with coverage at 90% of Ohio. The initial wave as we move through tonight and tomorrow is going to be significant on the thunderstorm side, and then with low pressure parking over northern Michigan and the Great Lakes in general, we see more just general light shower activity lingering all the way through Saturday. So temperatures are probably going to be kept under a little bit of a lid for the first part of the weekend. I do think we get clouds to break up and get a little sunshine in here on Sunday. Maybe not a lot, but some. And we turn out partly to mostly sunny to start next week. Precipitation free from Sunday afternoon right on through next Wednesday. Can see some thunderstorms on Thursday into next Friday as temperatures warm up, but they're going to be widely scattered. The biggest thunderstorm staying just to our west. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Here's farmer and landowner John Prue.
We purchased the land about 3 years ago, and there was an old farmstead on there with trees. We were going to clear the land so we could farm through it. We thought we knew where the pipe was, so we didn't call to get it located. The work on our property led to the damage of a light crude pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety Campaign.
Hey Ohio, exciting news coming to you from Ohio's Country Journal. Subscribe or renew your free subscription by September 20th of 2024 and you could win one of 4 50-inch televisions. Ohio's Country Journal is free, but subscribers have to renew their subscriptions every 3 years to continue to receive it. Subscribe or renew to stay updated on all things Ohio, from agricultural insights to rural lifestyle. Don't miss out. Visit our website today at ocj.com/renew. Let's check in now with Joel Panorwood as he caught up with a special guest at the Southwest Ohio Corn Growers Field Day.
Joining us on the Ohio AgNet, somebody we've heard from before, used to be a regular back at the Buckeye State, but now it's good to see him every now and then giving some good talks on the current ag economy. Right now, that's Ben Brown, Extension Specialist over at University of Missouri. He's talking here at the Southwest Ohio Corn Growers Field Day. Ben, thanks so much for being here with us. What an interesting time to talk ag economy and the outlook and what we're dealing with. First of all, let's recap Monday's USDA report. Holy cow, not a great one for soybeans.
Yeah, it's been a beating that we've had in the soybean market, both from a U.S. point of view when we think about our production and supplies on hand, but then even the global numbers are kind of moving in a direction that's not favorable to higher prices either. And when we think about some of the weather issues that could be coming for South America, some of the disease pressure they've had in corn, some of those acres could switch to soybeans as well. And so I do have concerns not only for U.S. supply and demand on the soybean side, but also the global supply and demand picture for soybeans.
Let's also talk about, that increased 1 million acres of soybeans kind of out of nowhere from USDA, but, where are those planted?
Yeah, so that was a big surprise, I think, for everybody, because the expectation was that U.S. soybean acres would drop due to the flooding that we experienced this spring in Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, and historically, what we've seen is that when we've seen flooding like this, or at least enough precipitation to delay planting late enough, producers take corn prevent plant, and they take a soybean planted acre, or what was intended to be a soybean planted acre, turn it into a corn prevent plant claim, if you will. And that's not what we saw. We saw soybean acres continue to increase. That was the big surprise that led to a ballooning soybean carryout picture that's going to be hard for us to sustain any type of price rally in the near term.
And as we know, markets so reliant on, certainty and uncertainty in the marketplace, specifically during an election year. And you made some comments about how this is truly an election year like no other.
Yeah, so more people, or a larger percentage of the global population, will vote in an election in 2024 than any time in our previous history. And you think of the elections that have already happened that matter to U.S. agriculture producers. Mexico, the largest trading partner for U.S. ag. Argentina, world's largest producer and then exporter of soybean meal and soybean oil. Russia, the relation, Taiwan had an election and that relationship with the United States and China matters a lot. So lots of things impacting commodity markets from the policy standpoint. Of course, we haven't even talked about the U.S. election, but there's a lot of uncertainty, or a lot of premium that was placed in the market, and a lot of fluctuations and just volatility due to political outcomes that have impacted us this year.
What's the outlook like for corn and soybean prices? Is there some good news, some possible things to have hope about in the future?
Yeah, so it's hard to find any, right? I the last couple of years has been fun talking about higher prices and higher per arm profitability. This year and probably next year aren't going to be as fun to talk about. However, I do think, when we look at the balance sheets, corn gives me a little bit more reason for optimism than soybeans. I think we could be setting ourselves up for a very strong corn export year, given some of the production challenges experienced in other parts of the world, given our ability to move product in a pretty efficient manner, thanks to our river systems here in the United States. I do think that we have the potential to help fill that global need for feed grains. I also am, supported by the fact that corn ethanol consumption and production has been very strong, and I think that has opportunities, whether that be through sustainable aviation fuel down the road at some point, continued use of ethanol in other countries around the globe that lead to larger ethanol exports from the United States. And so I do think there's some opportunities on the corn side. Soybean side, it's hard to find those positives. We have so many soybeans we need to work through. We need to cut our soybean carryout in the United States in half, and that's historically not been done without some type of global shortfall in production, whether that be in South America or the United States. And in this case, it might require both, but certainly hard to see a positive picture forming on the soybean side.
Again, that was the comments of Ben Brown, ag economist from the University of Missouri. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Let's talk about America. Not taxes or tweets or the issues that divide us, but how incredible our country is. Whether you come home to a crowded city street or sleepy small town, everyone deserves to live in a clean, green, and thriving community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working with millions of people like you to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Learn more at kab.org. Together, we can do beautiful things.
It's time now for your Thursday morning Louis Dreyfus grain analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Let's check in with Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished higher for the most part on Wednesday, and so now we're trying to figure out just what happens the rest of this week. Quick look at the closes. Had corn up anywhere from 1 to 3 cents. Beans up 3 to 6. The wheat markets were mixed overall. The biggest weakness was seen in the Chicago wheat market, and even that one tried to close higher. Hard red winter wheat was down a couple of pennies. The spring wheat was mixed and finished on the lower note overall. So what were the headlines in the marketplace yesterday? Honestly, the biggest one was a drier forecast coming for the eastern part of the growing region. I'm not sure whether that's really something worth talking about. We have rain coming into parts of Indiana, Michigan, Ohio as we move from today through tomorrow and into the weekend. But dry weather was talked about a little bit. Ag markets firmed yesterday as the U.S. dollar tested its recent lows amid better than expected U.S. inflation data for the month of July. CPI in July fell to 2.9% versus the trade guess of 3%, and it's below the 3% level for the first time since April of 2021. Fed policy over the next several months is going to transition from managing inflation to encouraging full employment. That would imply some kind of rate cut, at least one, that falls between September and December. Market is pricing in one, and there's talk of two. Yield on the 10-year Treasury yesterday morning fell to about 3.8% versus 4.3% in late July. The Dow finished on a stronger note. The question of ag market value is also going to be the focal point in the markets the next few days. The crop report is come and gone. Seasonal trends in corn and wheat are beginning to point upward late this month and into September. Ethanol production for the week ending August 9th totaled 315 million gallons, about the same level as we saw last week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look now at how the markets closed on Wednesday, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. September corn closed up 3 1/4 cents, and December corn was up 3 1/2. September soybeans closed up 5 cents, while November new crop beans were up 6, and September Kansas City wheat closed down 1 1/2 penny, while September Chicago wheat was up 6 cents, and September Minneapolis wheat was down 1 penny. Taking a look at the overnight trade, September corn is trading up 1 3/4 penny at $3.82 3/4 cents. September soybeans are up 5 3/4 at $9.58, and wheat for September trading up 11 1/2 cents at $5.46 1/4 cents. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.